Merci.
Thank you. For S&D, Neena Gill.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to pick up firstly with RBS, really, and your response just now. I think it sounds like a lot of empty words to me, because I saw on your website, and you were quite clearly saying you're committed to responsible management of tax affairs, including transparent, compliant approach to tax law. But given what we've already heard with yesterday's revelation of the Panama Papers, I really believe that these leaks show that, very many of the clients of Mossack Fonseca bank with British banks, and these organisations were registered in British administered jurisdictions. And many British banks do operate in tax havens, including RBS. Last year we had a report that showed that RBS, has 404 subsidiaries in tax havens. It really just doesn't sit with what you're saying. And, we already heard from a colleague that you paid 23.8 million euros to German prosecutors to settle a tax evasion inquiry into the Swiss banking arm of Goods, which we heard was a subsidiary. And what really gets to me is that one of their executives was recorded saying, basically, tax authorities are our enemy. And this is a bank that was saved by the taxpayer, and it's, 73% owned by the taxpayers, how can you justify, working in tax havens when, very many taxpayers in the UK and elsewhere are struggling to pay their monthly bills, suffering on a daily basis because of the austerity measures and cuts to welfare benefits and local services. And at the same time, how do you explain paying the top management team 5 million in bonuses and a further 17.4 million in future bonuses in shares, despite announcing loss of 2 billion in 2015? Now, this issue is, my second part is to both banks. Do you believe that banks should seek to exploit weaknesses in the tax system to gain an advantage? And how do you work? I mean, many people say we don't give the advice, but it's the big four auditing companies. What is your relationship with the auditing company? What is your budget for tax consultancy services? And how has it evolved in the last few years? And my last point is really, will you now be committing to greater transparency so that we don't learn about this information from leaks? And what is your individual bank's position on fully reporting to the public on country by country? Thank you.
Okay. So the first question for RBS.
If I start with the point about tax havens, as I said, we are reducing our number of subsidiaries across the board in all jurisdictions, and that will include in a number of low tax jurisdictions as well. By the end of the exercise, the only the only jurisdictions where we're expecting to have subsidiary companies will be in the Crown dependencies, which are well regulated and fully compliant with exchange of information. With respect to your questions on management bonuses, then obviously I'm unable to comment, and I would say that that was a question that is beyond the remit of this committee as I understand it. On the point about exploiting weaknesses in the legislation, absolutely not. We are following the spirit of the legislation as well as the letter of the legislation. We do not do aggressive tax planning either on our own account or on behalf of clients. Your question about the Big Four accountancy firms, yes, we do use the Big Four accountancy firms. This will be for projects that are beyond the reach of the in-house tax department. Our budget for spend on advisory services for 2014 was around £8 million, roughly speaking, £3 million of which was on employee assignment issues and £5 million was on corporate restructuring, disposals, advisory work and, as I say, larger projects which we were unable to resource internally. On transparency, I hope I've already made it clear that we're absolutely committed to transparency. We're committed to country-by-country reporting. We've published our 2014 results for country-by-country reporting, and we'll be doing so again in our sustainability report for 2015, and then adopting the greater disclosure that's required by BEPS for 2016 numbers.
Madame le Directeur. Can you repeat, Nina?
It was around, do you believe that banks should seek to exploit weaknesses in the tax system to gain advantage? And how do you work with auditing companies? What is your relationship? What is your budget for tax consultancy services? And how has it evolved over the last few years? And are you committed to greater transparency via country-by-country reporting?
I think my response would be very consistent to what our colleague has said. We use consulting firms where we need the expertise or where we don't have the in-house expertise. We're not represented in all jurisdictions with our own in-house tax department. Country-by-country reporting and transparency, I'm very much in favor of transparency. We have full transparency vis-à-vis the tax authorities with enhanced disclosure requirements that many jurisdictions have. That we have to comply with, and we're happy to comply with vis-à-vis the tax authorities. And we will comply with all the laws and public disclosure requirements as they develop, and in particular in connection with BEPS, the enhanced country-by-country reporting in the exchange with tax authorities. We're working through that to provide that. In terms of our policies and procedures, we as I mentioned before, I think the world has changed, and we very much evaluate transactions within our tax principles and within our new standards and our code of ethics to make sure that they're not just legal, but also are viewed and can be viewed and sound in the broader context of society and with respect to protecting our reputation.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much.